Anyway, I'm delighted now to have Stephen Sackur back up on the stage. I hope he's here. Stephen, where are you? You didn't obviously pay any attention because you were supposed to be over there. You're not doing as you're told.
I like it up here.
Well, it's lovely to see you. Did you go on a run this morning?
Yes, where were you? Where were you?
I was taking your job, actually. I was having to be here first thing this morning. It was bloody hard work. Yeah. Anyway, Stephen's going to be moderating a panel on global perspective. Is that right?
No, you're totally wrong. My panel is on China and One Belt, One Road and the implications of the vast Chinese economy for your sector, for hotels, hospitality, both in terms of Chinese investment and also the Chinese traveler, the Chinese consumer. So I think this is a hugely important session for many of you because, frankly, if one looks at the shape of the world economy and thinks about the way the world economy will look in 20, 50 years' time, those of you who aren't doing business with China are probably not going to be doing great business at all. So, let me introduce my two panelists and we'll get going right away. And the two panelists both work for the same business, and the reason we've invited both of them is because they have different perspectives, but they both know China extraordinarily well. So let me invite to the stage Pierre-Frédéric Roulot, who is Chief Executive Officer of the Louvre Hotel Group, and Amine Moukarzel, who is President of the MENA region for Louvre. So welcome, both of you. Pierre, why don't you sit there? Amine, why don't you take this chair? And I suspect many people in the room will know that the Louvre Hotel Group is now 100% owned by a Chinese company, indeed a state-owned Chinese company. So this sounds weird, Pierre, but do you regard yourself as an employee of the Chinese state?
Yes, definitively. I'm 100% Chinese.
100% China, but a public employee, no less.
Yeah, probably, yes. And with the salary of that.
Well, I suspect that may not be entirely true. But just talk me through the difference it's made and why, well, never mind why, how you see the role of this wave of Chinese money coming into the hotel and hospitality sector.
Yeah, before I was owned by American PE fund, and now 3 years ago, Jing acquired Louvre, and now I am in charge also of Jing Hotel in China. Then this is very interesting story because I was acquired and now I am running the company worldwide. And the trust from the Chinese is so important on that. Technical issues?
You carry on.
Yeah, and it's a different approach. The objective is 10 years objective. It's not like the other company I was. Is not exit in 3 years, something like that. It's more a long shot for the future in order to build something very, very solid and with a lot of expectation on the future. That's why we are interested. We are a conglomerate. We are not only in the hotel business, but also in restaurant, transportation, taxi, airlines. That's why we work on the different elements of the tourist journey. I don't know if you know that, but 1/3 of the Chinese who wants to go outside China book with our company, Jing Travel. And yeah, that's why we know very well the Chinese tourists, but also we accompany the Chinese tourists all along their travel around the world.
So, I'm not sure my microphone is working at all.
You want mine?
Nobody really wants to hear me, they want to hear you, so let's not worry too much. No.
Yes.
Ah, no, that's better. Now, can everybody hear me, sort of? Yes.
Too much. No, it's too much.
It's a very elegant moment, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're there. Yes, there we are.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does this mean the tie-up you have with China and the degree to which China regards your group now as a great vehicle for playing a major role in the hotel and hospitality business across the world, but particularly, I guess, in Europe, and we'll talk about MENA in a moment. Does that mean that you now are heavily focused on Chinese travelers? I mean, much more so than other international brands.
No. We want to be one of the biggest hospitality group in the world, and we are looking for every tourist, every nationalities. We are not focused only in Chinese. But the plus we have, that we know very well, and we also could bring to the hotel the Chinese guest. And something is important because you don't realize what is coming in front of us. For the moment, out of 1.4 billion inhabitants in China, only 130 million has the right to travel outside China. And the government decided 2 years ago to double the number of visas to go outside. That's from 130 million, we will receive outside China 260 million. That's a huge business coming, and we want to be part of that by the Jing Travel and also by all the hotel we own or we franchise.
And look, we've got the graphic, and you can see it there, both of you on the screen. So, I mean, talk me through what you believe is happening today. You know, this one belt, one road idea, which is a massive project to completely revolutionize the transport links from China all the way through Central Asia into Turkey and the Near East and all the way to Europe. You know, a sort of huge transport initiative which will essentially put China at the center, in a way, of global transportation hubs. What difference, from your point of view, a long time experienced veteran of the hotel and hospitality industry, what difference is this sort of emergence of China as the global economic power going to make?
Indeed, for the region and at the helm is the UAE, Dubai, we have seen a growth 50% year on year from the Chinese market.
55-0.
55-0.
Right.
And that growth opened up new opportunities for us as a leading hotel group in the mid-scale, supported by Jing as a leading also travel hub for us to really address. For instance, 5 years back, the Chinese market was not the talk of everyone. Now everybody in every country talking around the whole region, from what we can see on the overhaul roads, UAE, Saudi Arabia, also for the pilgrims, with the number of Islamic Chinese pilgrims potentially speaking to address. It is a very strong market to aim getting at all levels.
I mean, and this is the stereotype view of the Chinese traveler is that they are more interested in seeing the great world sights in London, Paris, Rome, maybe not that interested in the Middle East.
In the beginning, any tourist, a new opening up of a country, I mean, they opened up with 120, now they are reaching 120 million, now they are reaching moreover, another 120, with what we see to the region, 600, 700,000. So definitely they want to see the latest in happenings and those icons of destinations. Is Dubai an icon of destination? Indeed. Is Emirates Airline promoting what we have in Dubai? Very much. And what about the Saudi Arabia marketplace? And on the way, why not? We are in Dubai, in Saudi, in Abu Dhabi, and what about Ras Al Khaimah as a hub for airline to have east-west bound for the Chinese traveler? I don't want to call them only the Chinese tourist. I would like definitely to call them the Chinese traveler, because we can definitely tackle different niches within the segmentation of the Chinese traveler.
Because you're, more mid-market than really, really top scale, upscale.
The majority, as also the Imar CEO mentioned, the majority is in coach. It's not in first class.
Right.
So the majority are there for the Chinese market. And I would like to say something here. For the Chinese market, some people have a wrong perception. Some people have not got the right perception, if I may say it in a nicer way. They are not cheap traveler. They are not cheap tourists. They are price conscious. They are price driven. They have value for money. And this is whereby the majority will not stay in Burj Al Arab. And the majority is not going to be able to be accommodated in Burj Al Arab. So when we see them in airport, when we see them coming to our hotels, when we see that the tour leader is having a flag or, just for them to follow, is to make sure. And what I think the challenges here, all this is fine. The challenges will be what we can serve them, how can we serve them, and the language opportunities.
So, go on, Pierre, what were we going to say?
Can I add two figures? In fact, it's not cheap tourist. In average, I know the figure in Europe, but I don't know the figure in Middle East. But in average, they spend 6,000 euros per week when they travel in Europe. 6,000 euros. It's the highest level of expenses in term. And
how would that compare with the typical American traveler?
3,000, 50%.
Really? So double?
Yeah, it's a double. It's a double
And
because they buy a lot of things.
I was going to say, is that because the Chinese, frankly, a lot of them come to shop?
Yeah. For the moment they shop, but more and more they want to buy some experience. Like, for example, they spend a lot in some very nice castle or in Burgundy, in Bordeaux, in some area to buy some bottles and not only
some of them buy the vineyard.
Yeah, some of them buy the vineyard.
They already bought some vineyards, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I know.
Yeah. That's why in this part of the world, for the moment, you receive, I think, Chinese group tourism. And more and more, it will become Chinese individual, and you will see the difference because they are more and more demanding, and you need also to change a little bit the product itself, the hotel, the way you welcome
Okay, so
them.
how do you, either of you can answer this, how do you change the product, or at least be so aware of the potential of the Chinese market that you make the offer absolutely suitable for the Chinese? What do you have to adapt and change?
Yeah, first, they don't speak the language. Then you have to change everything in your hotel. You have to have a Chinese speaker at the reception when they check in or check out. You need to have TV. You need to have newspaper. You need to change the food at the breakfast, specifically at the breakfast. Something you need to understand that they couldn't eat like us. That's why every 2 days they need to have this sort of dry noodle with water because the stomach cannot afford the food in Europe or in Middle East. That's why you have to propose Chinese food. You also have to it's a different category of customer. They don't complain in front of you, but behind, they are very, very difficult customers.
They're demanding.
Yeah, very demanding.
Yeah.
That's why you need to create the link with the customer, and not just because they are silent, you don't have to take care of the customer. No,
Right.
You need to go from the customer and create.
Because what you're saying is, if they have a negative view of what you've offered, they certainly won't be coming back again, clearly.
Yes.
And the message will get out there to their compatriots that this hotel group is not...
And the social network in China is very important. They have a lot of strength, and they could ban an hotel very easily.
Right. Now, did you want to add to that?
Yes, I can add on, if I may, to the region, what we have. We have witnessed that many hotel chains, many hotels, have now Chinese channels on their TV.
I mean, just hold the mic really close to your mouth, just so we can hear you really well.
Is it better now?
That's, if you just hold it close.
Okay, so what we witnessed is indeed to have the Chinese channels in rooms in hotels, recruiting and having on board an executive who can link the demand and the requirement of the clients in the hotels. But there are two niches also important for us in the region. And these two niches are one in relation to the corporate demand, and the other one is to the deals that are carried out between governments, Chinese government and local companies' government, in relation to the trade deals. So the nuclear energy deals that took place between the nations of Saudi Arabia for the Jazan and the Chinese are important to have the Chinese traveler, and this is why earlier I called it Chinese traveler, because we have this niche of the Chinese workers, travelers coming to our countries and coming in the Middle East to support our hotel business. And this is where I invite our hotels and our hotel sectors to really be able to cater and to accommodate. As to the bilateral trade deals with UAE, with Saudi Arabia, and with other countries, this helps us to be attracting more tourists or more traveler from China.
Okay. We're talking a lot about the traveler. I do also want to talk about the sort of strategic investment context, because, you know, I think it was 2015, wasn't it, when the Chinese bought Louvre? And I think I'm right in saying Radisson is owned by the Chinese, and there are flagship trophy hotels that we know were bought, by the Chinese money, thinking the Waldorf Astoria in New York City. So for this room and for people in the hotels business, both as investors and operators, the question is, how much of the industry do you think will end up in Chinese hands?
I don't know that. I don't want to say something on the competitor, but just come back on the One Belt, One Road, just to have that in mind. The Chinese government decided to invest $1,000 billion in this.
We'd say $1 trillion, $1 trillion.
To invest in infrastructure and, of course, hotel. And we are the first hotelier for the Chinese government. That's why, if you look at the number, last year we opened 955 hotels, net new. It's the biggest growth in the industry. And out of the 955, 206 were in the One Belt, One Road. That's why we received funds to develop hotel, restaurant, railway station, and up to me.
So this is a honeypot for you. Yeah. One Belt, One Road is like, it's the best thing that's ever happened.
Yeah, it's the priority of the Chinese government for the moment, and that's why it's good for the region, because this region is part of the One Belt, One Road destination. And I discussed, for example, some opportunity in Saudi Arabia, because they are very in the road, on the maritime road of the One Belt, One Road.
Right.
And we could have, as Amine said, a link between the two countries on that, and we could invest. That changed the world, because it's not only tourists, it's not only to buy some properties, flagship in New York or something like that, or to buy some hotel group. It's also to invest in the economy.
Yeah.
That's why it's a very different move from the past.
But to answer my specific question, do you see Chinese money continuing to be poured into the hotel sector.
Yeah, it's part of the. I read the plan, the state plan for the next 5 years, and the hotel industry and the tourist industry are the top priority in this plan. That in the next 5 years, we know that we could continue to invest and to find opportunities.
So somebody was telling me that it's changing a little bit because there's a little bit more caution in China now about being seen to take over the flagship hotels and the big brands. So
True.
They're using middle sort of companies, which are less obviously sort of Chinese money, as fronts for new investment. Is this something you're seeing?
Yeah, true. In the past, perhaps some mistake was done to buy some flagship only because it's a flagship. You mentioned the one in New York. Now they know better the world and they know the figure, and they make more smart the transaction they want to do.
But in essence, are you both saying we should regard this as a total positive, a sort of win-win, rather than be concerned that too much of this sector may end up in Chinese hands?
In fact, you could have some concern, and sometimes the political have this sort of concern, but the balance is very positive because of the investment, because of the Chinese tourists, because they open also the market for the group. That's why for our brand, we develop in China, and now we are more than 5,000 hotels in China with our brand. Each brand has a Chinese name.
5,000 in China alone?
Yes.
Wow.
And then when in total we have 7,000 around the world.
You're in the top 5 in the world now, I guess.
We are top 5, top 2 in number of hotels, top 5 in number of rooms. But what is important is we have something I want to add. Each brand has a Chinese name, and when they book for the Chinese name. They don't book for the name, the European name, for example. That's why it's so important to have this anchor in China if you want to make business with them.
Where is the group headquarters?
We have 2 HQ, one in Europe, in Paris, and one in Shanghai.
The one in China is more important, isn't it?
Of course, of course.
All right, we're almost out of time. But if anybody, I don't know if there's anybody from China here, but if there's anybody who would like to ask a question of these 2 experts in the Chinese story and Chinese investment in the hotel business, now is your moment. So do raise a hand. It's a little dark out there, so I can't necessarily see you easily. But if there's anybody with a question, do ask it now. If there is not, there is one. So we'll get one question in, and then we'll break for coffee. So go on, sir.
It's for
Russell.
Do you have a microphone? No, you don't. Do we have a microphone here? Hold the thought, sir. Don't forget it, because it's a long journey to get the mic to you.
Yeah. Introduce your name as Russell Sharp, please.
It's for Amine.
The Indian market is...
Keep the mic close to your mouth.
The Indian market, Amine, is just as big as the Chinese market. And the Chinese seem to have an objective rather than just tourism, but it looks more like acquisition throughout the world. I mean, we get Indians traveling throughout the world as well, but they don't do acquisitions like the Chinese. What do you think is the final objective of this initiative that the Chinese are trying to do? Is it something that they have a bigger plan for, or is it just they're going out like the Japanese and acquiring assets?
Okay, I answer you.
Go on then.
Thank you. The objective may change within a certain economic approach as opportunities may arise, especially what we are witnessing with hospitality group that have been sold, acquired, or that are being acquired. So what we have done and what we have experienced within our organization, and Pierre is more knowledgeable on that, the Jing has acquired a leading Indian group that is Sarovar Hotel brand, and they just acquired another group recently. And hereby, the acquisition is not only for an investment in the acquisition or into the purchasing of hotel projects, it's rather to strengthen the synergy within the organization. So when you are a large conglomerate in hospitality and you are, for instance, in Shanghai, with 80% control of the travel industry, as the largest provider for the outbound Chinese traveler with Shanghai Travel, with the Jing Travel, this is important for us as a group to have such diversification and to strengthen the marketplace for outbound. And indeed, India is one of the important aspects for us, and this is where we are witnessing a great deal of a new hospitality project development.
Okay, great. I think we have to end there because it's time for a coffee break and there's lots more to do after coffee. Jonathan, do you need to do a bit of housekeeping?
Yeah, actually, we're just going to carry on. So anybody who wants to grab a coffee can do so, but we've got a great session that's just following. But a quick question to you, Stephen. What are some of your concerns with this Chinese investment? You see it from a much more higher level, macro level. What do you think are the challenges?
Well, I think the question just that we had from the floor is absolutely the right one. What in the long run is China's strategic intent here? I mean, the Chinese government, unlike the democracies in the West, doesn't operate on 4 or 5 year political cycles. It does truly think long term. And, you know, when one looks at their investment strategy, I think, we do have to try to figure out where they believe they are taking their country in terms of its place in the global geopolitical sort of world. And I don't think one needs to worry too much about their investment in the hotel and hospitality industry. I think, frankly, a lot of it is about making money. But also, I think we do have to consider where we're going to be in 20, 30, 40 years' time in terms of China's control of key levers of the global economy. I have no answers. I'm not a politician. I'm not sure there are answers. But I think we have to be aware of what's going on. And this overall shift of power from west to east is the most profound trend of the 21st century. And I just think it's incumbent on all of us to think how we respond to it, if we're business people, how we are playing our part in making sure our business is fit for purpose in that environment. And as citizens of the West, as I am, or citizens of whichever part of the world we are, we need to know how our part of the world is going to relate to that new power structure. Okay. So something I think we all need to think about. But I don't have answers about what a Chinese-dominated world will look like at the end of the 21st century. That, I think, is something we're all going to find out over time.
Okay, great. All right, please show your appreciation to Stephen Sackur and his panel. Pierre, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Amine. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Amine.
Thank you, Pierre.
Stephen, I love your socks.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.